Imagine a force so elite, so utterly perfected. They're the ones chosen to guard the most sacred being in the entire galaxy. A single purpose, power beyond measure, and a duty. Well, a duty that's lasted over 10,000 years. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging right into the world of the Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's Golden Guardians. Our mission for you today: we're going to extract the really key insights from the sources we've looked at. We want to unpack who these legendary figures are, how they stand apart even from superhumans like Space Marines, and what their strengths and maybe even their surprising weaknesses tell us about the Imperium itself. We'll dig into their origins, their vital role, and how they stack up against other big names. This deep dive uses some detailed excerpts about the Adeptus Custodes, so we should get a really full picture. All right, let's get into it. The Adeptus Custodes. They're not just superhuman, are they? It feels like something else entirely. What makes them so different right from the start?
Yeah, that's the core of it, really. It's not just that they're better than Space Marines. It's a whole different philosophy behind their creation. See, Space Marines come from a template, right? Using gene seed from one of the 20 Primarchs. Standardized in a way.
The Emperor's superhuman sons, yeah.
Right. But each custodian, they're, let's call it bespoke. A singular masterpiece. Crafted with skill that's just unparalleled. We're talking specialized genetic engineering, personalized augmentations, tailored to each individual.
Wow. Okay, so not mass production. It's like individual works of art, but for war.
Exactly. It's almost like a personal project of the Emperor himself, making each one unique, irreplaceable, a living relic.
So it's baked right into their biology then, not just better gear or training.
Oh, absolutely. It's fundamental. They're engineered for this role from the ground up. They are, for all intents and purposes, biologically immortal. They've got superhuman strength, speed, faster than the eye can follow, hitting like a freight train, that kind of thing.
10,000 years.
10,000 years they've stood watch. It's the definition of unyielding duty, immortal service. And while they started around 10,000 strong, their current numbers, honestly, nobody really knows for sure. They're incredibly secretive. And they have been whittled down over the millennia. Constant vigilance, constant battle. It takes a toll, even on them.
Which raises a big question, doesn't it? For you listening, think about it. This huge Imperium usually relies on massive armies, overwhelming numbers. But for its ultimate protection, it relies on this tiny group. What does that say about how powerful each one must be? And maybe how vulnerable that makes the protection overall?
It's a fascinating paradox. The sheer power concentrated in so few hands.
Definitely a stark contrast.
Yeah.
So beyond just being these incredible beings, what's their actual job in the Imperium? They're not just regular soldiers.
Not at all. Their primary duty, their fundamental purpose is laser-focused. Protect the Emperor and the Imperial Palace on Terra.
Right, the heart of the Imperium.
That's their sacred charge. Has been for 10 millennia. And because of that, you almost never see them leave Terra to fight elsewhere in the galaxy. They're a vital part of the military, yes, absolutely elite. But their role is very, very specific. Ultimate internal defense, you could say.
So they're not out there conquering planets like the Space Marines. They're the ultimate home guard, the absolute last line of defense.
Precisely. And they're more than just guards. They're living symbols of the Emperor's will, their presence on a battlefield. It signifies something huge is happening, something the Emperor himself is invested in.
So if they show up, things are serious.
Extremely serious. They're rarely deployed off Terra, but when they are, it's for something critical, something that needs the absolute peak of martial power. We know about figures like Captain General Trajan Valoris, famed for strategy, but also just an almost unstoppable warrior.
Right.
They are the ultimate trump card, held back for the worst threats imaginable. That final golden wall against, annihilation. Imagine being an enemy, seeing them arrive. That's got to be terrifying.
Okay, so origins, duty. Now let's get to the really juicy stuff. Just how powerful are these guys? The lore, the tabletop game, they sound devastating. What are the truly jaw-dropping strengths?
Oh, they are definitely formidable, almost unfairly so sometimes. First off, their individual strength is just off the charts. On the tabletop, your basic Custodes troop. His stats are comparable to a hero choice, an HQ unit from other armies.
Wait, really? A basic trooper is like someone else's captain or chapter master?
Pretty much, stat-wise, think about that. A regular warrior standing toe-to-toe with other factions' leaders. And in the lore, each custodian is considered a fighting force basically unequaled by almost anyone else out there. Living weapons.
That completely changes how you'd fight them. It's like every single soldier is a boss fight. What else makes them so tough?
Well, that leads to point two. Their crazy durability. They have very strong basic stats, yes, but also excellent armor. And crucially, army-wide invulnerable saves. That's huge.
Ah, the invulns. So even superpowered weapons might just bounce off.
Exactly. It's a special save that can ignore even the deadliest hits, makes them incredibly hard to actually kill. They've got the best defensive gear the Imperium can make. Walking fortresses, essentially.
Okay, strong and tough. What about offense?
Exceptional in melee, that's point 3. Custodes units are just lethal in close combat. Their weapons, like the Guardian Spears and their innate abilities, mean they can just tear through almost anything once they get close. They want to be in the thick of it.
And do they have specialized units that add different tactical elements, beyond just being individually amazing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've got potent characters like Valoris and specialized units that give them more flexibility. Think about their grav tanks, like the Caladius. They bring some serious long-range anti-tank punch plus speed. Lets them reach out and touch dangerous targets.
Okay, so not just melee then.
Not exclusively, no. And then you have their jet bikes, the Virtus Praetors. They keep that classic Custodes toughness and melee threat, but add incredible speed. Great for grabbing objectives or hitting flanks fast. And many units have access to something called Indomitable Heroes. It can give them feel no pain.
Another layer of defense.
Right, a chance to ignore wounds even after failing saves. And it gets even better if they complete their oath during the game. Makes them even more ridiculously tough. This is a force designed to be, well, almost unstoppable individually. For you listening, just try to picture facing one of them. The sheer power, the futility, it's immense.
But okay, even gods bleed, right? There has to be a downside, a kryptonite. For all that power, where are they vulnerable? Especially in the game, there must be some balance.
You're absolutely right. There is a balance, and it stems directly from that perfection. It comes with some pretty significant drawbacks on the tabletop. First, big weakness, cost. High points cost per model. They are the most expensive models in the game, points-wise, maybe second only to Imperial Knights.
The giant walkers, yeah.
Right, so this means you always have a low model count, very small armies. You're lucky to get 15, maybe 20 models on the table in a standard game.
So quantity is definitely not their game. Every single model is a huge investment.
Precisely. And that leads straight into the second and maybe the most impactful weakness. Losing even one model hurts a lot. Because your army is so small, every loss is a massive blow to your strategy, your ability to control the board. It's crippling.
And isn't there that bit of lore?
Ah, yes, the Bell of Lost Souls. It's said that every single time a custodian falls in battle anywhere in the galaxy, this sacred bell rings out on Holy Terra within the Imperial Palace.
Wow. That's incredibly evocative. It really hammers home how significant each loss is, not just tactically, but symbolically.
It absolutely does. For the Custodes themselves, it's a constant, painful reminder of their dwindling numbers, the loss of an irreplaceable brother. For the wider Imperium, it's a deliberate statement. It highlights how precious each one is, contrasting with the usual expendability of Imperial forces. Every loss is a catastrophe. That fragility, born from their very perfection, is their kryptonite.
So, small numbers, devastating losses. Any other weak spots?
Yeah, a couple more key ones. Their shooting, while sometimes potent, isn't generally their strong suit, especially against hordes. They lack the sheer volume of fire to win a pure shooting duel against many armies. Anti-infantry firepower is often noted as a weakness. Their weapons hit hard, sure, but you don't get many shots for the points you pay, not compared to, say, dedicated anti-infantry units in other factions. They want to get close.
Built for the charge, not the gun line.
Pretty much. Then there's a practical issue for players. A lot of their cooler, more specialized units, they come from Forge World.
Ah, the premium resin models and premium price tags.
Exactly. So building a diverse Custodes army can be a serious investment financially. And finally, because their unit roster isn't massive compared to some factions, their overall strategies can sometimes feel a bit predictable to experienced opponents.
Okay, that paints a clearer picture. Strengths and weaknesses. So how do they actually measure up against other big players within the Imperium? Are they truly unique, or are there surprising similarities?
Well, connecting it all, you see how each force has its niche, right? But the Custodes' role is just fundamentally different. Let's compare. First, Space Marines. We've touched on this, but the sources are clear. Custodes are superior, genetically, individually. Space Marines are the backbone, the tip of the spear for conquest.
But Custodes are that next level up, the Emperor's personal guard.
Exactly. The lore even suggests it'd be basically impossible for a standard space marine, even a famous one like a Black Templar, to beat a custode one-on-one. There are even sort of jokes in the community about a Black Templar not winning against someone like Bjorn the Fell-Handed, the ancient space wolf dreadnought. It just highlights the custode's perceived power level by comparison.
Okay. What about other elites, like Grey Knights?
Good comparison. Both are elite forces,
Yeah.
definitely. High unit costs, low model counts on the table. They share that tactical fragility where every loss really stings. Different roles, obviously. Grey Knights being psychic demon hunters, but similar army composition issues.
In Imperial Knights, you mentioned they're also expensive.
Very similar in that regard. Super expensive per model, incredibly resilient, but Knights bring colossal firepower, mostly ranged, being giant walkers. Custodes are more about that individual infantry-level supremacy, usually in melee. Different kinds of elite.
Makes sense. How about the complete opposite end? The Astra Militarum.
Ugh, the Imperial Guard. Yeah, that's a stark contrast. The Guard is all about sheer numbers, massed firepower, grinding attrition, the hammer of the Emperor.
Whereas Custodes are the scalpel. Very, very sharp golden scalpel.
Exactly. Guard troopers. Well, they lack the individual power or survivability of Custodes by a massive margin. It's quantity versus ultimate quality.
And one more is the Adeptus Mechanicus. Tech priests and their machines.
Another interesting one. Both can be seen as elite, durable forces in the game. But the Mechanicus leans heavily into complex synergies and powerful, often less mobile, ranged firepower. Custodes prioritize that melee impact and individual resilience, different paths to battlefield dominance.
So across the board, while you see some overlaps in tabletop roles like elite or expensive, the Custodes really do maintain that unique position. The ultimate bodyguards, unmatched individually. Wow, what a deep dive this has been. We've really peeled back the gold plating on the Adeptus Custodes, haven't we? From their almost mythical origins to the very real tactical challenges they face.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway is that they represent the absolute peak of human martial perfection in the Imperium. Their whole existence is defined by this unyielding 10,000-year duty to protect the Emperor directly. That combination of unique creation and singular focus really sets them apart, even from the best Space Marine chapters. They're just different.
So as we wrap up, here's something for you to chew on. We know they're incredibly powerful, but each loss is devastating, and their numbers are dwindling. What does that actually signify for the Imperium's future, for the Emperor they guard so fiercely? Is this ultimate strength paradoxically also their greatest vulnerability? What could that mean down the line? Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Emperor's Golden Guardians. If you found this interesting, maybe share it with a friend who's into this stuff. And hey, make sure you subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations like this one. Until next time, keep digging.